Hey everybody, I'm Todd and I hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to continue taking a look at 500 series gear. This time it's an affordable microphone preamp, the DBX 580. Now the 580's been around for a long time, but I thought I'd take a look at it because I really didn't see much in the way of reviews available. Also, I thought for those just getting into 500 series and looking for a first preamp, or if anybody wants to add up a lot of channels to record drums, it could be an affordable option. So what DBX tells us is that this preamp is based off of their 786 Blue series as well as their 1086 preamps. So loosely based, not exact. Taking a look at the features and controls, there's a VU meter calibrated to read 0 when output is plus 4 dBu. We get a gain control for up to 60 dB with a 20 dB pad for the mic input only. There's also a low and high detail control, and these are EQ filters. We'll take a look at how they perform a little bit later on. And we also have a low cut or high pass filter which operates at 12 dB per octave, and it's variable beginning from 30 Hz up to 300 Hz. We have a control for 48 volts of phantom power. There's polarity invert, which is handy if we have a multi-microphone situation. And of course we have a switch that allows us to select the DI input as well. So to let you hear my voice through the 580 preamp, I've gone ahead and connected up a Shure SM7B. It's a gain-hungry microphone, so it'll also stress the preamp as well. So you have the gain set at about 4:30, 5 o'clock on the 580 here, and that amounts to in and around 55 dB of gain, so enough to drive the SM7B. Personally, I think if I was using this with an SM7B or other gain-hungry mic, I'd add in a cloud lifter so that I have a little more granular control, because up at the top of the gain range, it really moves quickly. Now, a few of the other controls will let you hear the impact. First of all, we'll look at the low cut filter. So I'll engage that. And when I first engage it with the setting where it is, this is going to be at 30 Hertz, so it's really not going to have any impact on my voice. But as I turn it, it's going to go all the way up to 300 Hertz as a low cut or high pass filter again. So I'm just turning it up here, turning it all the way, and I'll cycle through the entire thing, and you can hear the change it makes to my voice. See how it rolls off that low end. Now I'm getting close to the top. That's all the way at 300 Hertz, so rolling off a lot of the low frequencies. Now we'll just go ahead and back that off. Go back to the beginning where it is at 30 Hertz, and I'll turn that off. Next section in here is the detail filters. There's a low detail and a high detail, so I'll engage those again by pushing the button here. It's kind of nice having a control for both the low cut as well as the detail filters for A/B testing, so I kind of like that it's not just you have to dial them up and down. Now the high filter is a shelving filter, and according to DBX, it really starts working even in and around 600-700 Hertz, but you don't get a more pronounced effect until we get above, I think, 5 or 6 kilohertz. We'll test this out later on with some frequency analysis, but I'll just go ahead and start adding some high detail, and I'll let you hear my voice gradually as I get through that. I'll let you see where it's set at now. We'll push it up to about 12 o'clock, and this is the sound that you're going to get. And we'll keep pushing it even further. Now I'm all the way up at about, almost 3 o'clock here. And finally, I'll bring it all the way to the top, which is far too much, but it lets you hear the range anyways that you can get out of that control. Same thing with the low filter. The low detail is said to give us a boost in and around 125 Hertz and then a cut around 400 Hertz. So it sounds to me like they're trying to do the Pultec thing a little bit, but let's see what we get. So again, I'll turn it up a little bit. Now we're sitting right at around 9 o'clock here on the control. This is the sound you get. Moving again through up to about noon with the control. This or so is what the sound you're going to have here. And moving it a little further up to around 3 o'clock. That's what you have. And finally, maximum boost, which I would not recommend. So pushing things all the way up to the top here is what the sound is like there. So again, that's the detail control. Again, I like to see the fact that I can shut both the high cut and the details off and on in addition to the adjustment, so that's useful. Of course, below here we also end up having a control for 48 volts phantom power, not needed on this dynamic mic. There's a polarity or essentially phase invert switch, which is great if we have more than one microphone, and of course a switch to engage the DI that's on the bottom. And now to let you hear what this is like with a condenser microphone, I've just connected up the Rode NT1A. I chose this microphone because it's in an affordable price point, again, much like the preamp itself, and I thought that would be a good fit for you to hear. Obviously less gain required here, but this is a condenser microphone. Now for the percussion test, I've gone ahead and moved over to the Aston Spirit microphone. This is a pretty detailed microphone, so it'll give us a chance to hear just how well the DBX 580 preamp is able to translate that. We'll start with a shaker and listen carefully for the individual granules. And I found in my monitoring it sounded like it was picking up the detail pretty good. Let's go to the Cabasa for a little more percussive sound. Okay, and that as well, it seemed to pick up the percussive, the transients quite well. So I'm going to say the preamp did a good job here. Of course, this is not an exact comparison with the two takes on the guitar, but the frequency analysis really does show what I heard listening back. The DBX 580 seemed to have a little more emphasis in the lower frequencies and the high frequencies, whereas the Quantum was a little more forward in the mids. Again, it's pretty subtle, but it was there. The linear analysis, of course, shows us that greater detail in the upper frequencies. And when we look at the comparative graph, again, on the log basis, we can see those low frequencies and high frequencies, and then the mid frequencies become more apparent when we look at the linear comparison. Now, to test the self noise out on this preamp, I went ahead and connected a 150 ohm resistor, and you can see here at the lowest gain setting, we've got about minus 123 dB, and that's only in the highest frequencies. It diminishes quite a bit as we get into the lower frequencies. I'll gradually increase the gain and we'll watch. Okay, so now at about 9 o'clock, still sitting around that minus 22, minus 123 dB. Not a whole lot of change. Now we're up to about noon, and here we've gone to minus 118 dB. Again, still diminishing as we get into the lower frequencies, but we're starting to build a little more noise. Now getting to about 3 o'clock. Again, we're starting to fill in more noise here, minus 110 dB, and we also have more of the lower frequencies starting to build up in here. And this is about where I had it set for the SM7B, and you can see that we're around minus 90 dB and a lot, more even. Certainly, the lower frequencies are producing more noise here. Now, there's still plenty of room, a difference in terms of the signal versus noise. I've got over 75 dB, so lots of room to get a good recording here still, but certainly more noise. And at maximum gain, here's where we're at. Again, pretty much around that minus 90, maybe minus 88.7 in the loudest noise frequencies. Certainly more in the lower range, but overall you can get good recordings out of this. Just know that it's not going to be the quietest preamp out there. And of course, this isn't a scientific test. There can be noise introduced by the interface, patch bay, the chassis. But just to give you a point of reference, I've now put my Camden 500 preamp in the same slot, and you can see here the noise is considerably lower. Minus 132, and then we have one point here where it's sitting around minus 129. That's 143 to 151 hertz. That's at minimum gain. Let's go ahead and put this on maximum and see what we get. I'm just letting everything settle here. Now we can see, a lot of the frequencies still are in a low range here, minus 120. So I'm getting up in here around minus 100, minus 107. We have a couple frequencies sitting in this 120, 127 range, getting up to minus 86. So a little more noise there in this particular preamp, but overall you can see the noise on the Camden is lower than it is on the 580. Both certainly leave plenty of room in terms of the signal versus the noise floor, but you just get a little more room with the Camden than you do with the DBX 580. Now, I've connected a noise generator up to the DI on the DBX 580 so we can check out what's going on with these low cut and detail controls. This tone generator normally has that roll off that you see below about 300 hertz, so that's not the DBX, that is the tone generator. So I'll engage the low cut filter and just watch as I turn it up. And that's about halfway up, and we can really see those frequencies starting to roll off. Really starting probably in and around 200, 250 hertz. Up to about 3 o'clock, and we see again that continues to roll off. And they tell us this is from a 300 hertz down, and at maximum control here, 300 hertz, I would say that looks about like what I see. Now I'll go ahead and I'll turn that off and we'll take a look at the detail filters. We'll start with the high detail, and this one DBX tells us really starts to act around 600 Hertz, but then it takes off in the upper frequencies. So let's see what happens as I level up the high detail. And here we can see it's really starting to take off up at the top. Really, again, I would say it does start building probably around 600 Hertz, and you see the most action starting at about 2 kilohertz and up from there, followed by a roll off at the end. And so now I'll back that off and we'll go to the low detail. And this one is supposed to give us a boost around 125 and a cut around 400. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do that. And those are both Bell filters. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to turn this up a little further. Yeah, and we're starting to see that happening here. Definitely got a boost going on around 125. And I would say there's a cut maybe slightly below 400 Hertz, maybe 350 from what I'm seeing here. Again, they're Bell filters, but overall performing much as DBX has said they would. So now that you've had a chance to hear the DBX 580 on a few different microphones and sources, I'll give you my final thoughts. Overall in this price range, I think it performs quite well. I find the build quality good, the controls are solid, there's no wobble to the dials or anything like that. Of course, there is a metal chassis around the board and everything, which can help with interference, so that's good to see here also. Now, in terms of its response for transients, I think on the guitar and the percussion, listening back, I thought it performed quite well on those also. The detail controls, keep in mind the EQ is boost only on the detail controls, and I think they work well as long as you don't push them too far. There is, of course, the low cut filter, and I thought that did a pretty good job also. So overall, what I purchased this, well, it's $340 US at the time of recording. I think that makes it a compelling option, but this is a congested category. There are a lot of preamps in and around that price point if you're starting out in 500 series, and some at a few dollars more that'll give you even enhanced performance. So we'll be checking out more modules in the coming months, so just keep an eye out for that. Overall, though, I would say in its price range, this isn't a bad place to start. And if you needed a lot of channels for recording drums, perhaps it could be a good option. So if you're looking for other ideas on how to level up your studio, whether it's hardware, software, plugins, check out one of the videos on the screen. As always, I really appreciate you joining me, and I will see you next time.